there were chariots found in the Red Sea, it would probably have something to do with the crossing of the sea.
Imagine a lost army frozen in time beneath thousands of feet of seawater, chariot wheels, bones, and relics enveloped in coral, telling a story that could rewrite history. What if the biblical account of a Pharaoh's army drowning is not just legend, but a real, tangible event? This underwater trove isn't just a discovery, it's a ticking time bomb. Fragile artifacts are disappearing, and what divers have just uncovered may challenge everything we thought we knew about an ancient world. Could we be standing on the edge of a truth, long buried and fiercely guarded? The underwater mystery emerges. The first hint, something extraordinary lay beneath the Red Sea, came from unusual sonar readings that baffled experts. Instead of natural formations, the sonar returned images of shapes too symmetrical and precise to be random. As deep-sea drones descended into the Gulf of Aqaba, the incredible outlines of what appeared to be ancient chariot wheels started to emerge from the sand. These weren't isolated fragments, but multiple, almost perfectly preserved wheels, half buried and encased in coral. Divers were stunned. The discovery was unlike anything modern archaeology had uncovered beneath these waters. Reports soon spoke of thousands of metal pieces, horse hooks, and wheel remnants stretching over a remarkably large area. Yet, despite the mechanical nature of the find, the site felt eerily like a tomb locked in time, a cold underwater graveyard waiting to be understood. Initial disbelief gave way to a growing conviction that this was far from an ordinary shipwreck or metal debris from recent centuries. Even with these dramatic findings, the full extent of the site wasn't yet clear. The mysterious debris was spread out in what looked like a long linear trail. This pattern suggested something far more than a single accident. It hinted at a desperate and chaotic retreat of an entire army. But what exactly had happened here? And why had these artifacts remained hidden for so long? The clues told a story, but it was not ready to be fully told. The divers were cautious, knowing that these delicate relics had survived underwater for thousands of years. Each piece was covered by thick coral and encrustations, making excavation a perilous task. They understood that disturbing these fragile artifacts could cause irreversible damage. This was not just an archaeological site, it was a fragile witness to an ancient catastrophe. Speculation soon began to swirl. Could this be the physical remnants of Pharaoh's army, lost beneath the waters during the biblical Exodus? The Bible speaks about chariots and horses drowned under the sea, and these findings echoed that account in a chilling way. Yet, scientists and archaeologists hesitated to jump to conclusions without rigorous evidence. The mystery was thickening. This underwater puzzle also raised unsettling questions. Why had such a significant site remained practically untouched and ignored for decades? Were there reasons, political or scientific, that kept people from exploring these submerged secrets? The deeper the divers went, the more it felt like they were peeling back layers of history and resistance. The location itself added to the intrigue. The team was investigating coordinates first proposed by Ron Wyatt over 40 years ago, an explorer whose controversial claims had been dismissed by mainstream academia. Wyatt had long insisted that Egyptian chariot wheels lay on the seafloor here, but, without solid proof or permits, his story lingered in the realm of legend and skepticism. Now, modern technology was verifying that the truth might be far stranger and more complex. Acknowledging the enormity of what they were uncovering, the divers knew this site could rewrite the history books. But they also sensed a darker reality beneath the surface: fragile artifacts, political tension, and a race against time to preserve evidence fading beneath the waves. More than a discovery, this was a warning, one that demanded patience, caution, and eyes wide open. As this ancient mystery takes shape beneath the sea, the landscape that has preserved it for millennia becomes crucial to understand. The secrets aren't only in the artifacts themselves, but also in the very geography that sheltered them. The geography of the Gulf of Aqaba. The Gulf of Aqaba is far from an ordinary stretch of water. This underwater region, near what is now Jordan and Egypt, is home to a unique underwater formation, a massive flat land bridge that spans nearly 10 miles. This rare geographical feature is unlike anything else found in the entire Gulf, creating a natural corridor beneath the waves. On either side of this land bridge, the seabed plunges dramatically to depths of around 5,000 feet. This vast underwater plateau creates conditions that have helped preserve fragile materials for thousands of years. The sudden drop-offs and flat expanses trap silt and coral, slowly burying and shielding artifacts lying on the seabed. It's an environment that supports both the survival and the concealment of ancient remnants from view, making detection difficult without high-tech equipment. However, this geography also makes exploration notoriously challenging. The sheer depth at the edges and the vast expanse mean that only state-of-the-art sonar and remotely operated underwater vehicles can navigate and map it accurately. Historically, this complexity likely contributed to why the site remained so hidden and unexamined for so long. The Gulf's characteristics effectively closed the door on casual or incomplete investigations. The location's geological uniqueness also adds weight to what the divers uncovered. When metal detectors picked up strange signatures beneath coral-covered mounds here, they weren't expecting relics of Bronze Age military technology, but the underwater landscape seemed almost perfectly designed to shelter an ancient battlefield left over beneath layers of sand and coral growth. Among the most compelling aspects is how this flatland might represent the very path Pharaoh's army took as they fled in panic. According to the biblical account, the linear distribution of artifacts seems to trace a desperate, chaotic retreat across this submerged bridge. The terrain itself, although hidden underwater, matches historical clues that had baffled scholars for decades. This geography is also a natural trap. The land bridge confines any fleeing force, forcing them into a narrow corridor that would have been difficult to escape. This tragic bottleneck may explain the massive concentration of chariot wheels and human remains discovered here. It's a silent testimony to a catastrophic event frozen underwater. The fact that such a terrain is unique in this part of the world also raises questions about other shipwrecks or accidental sinkings. Here, the remains are unlikely to be random or coincidental. The setting dictates a story of sudden disaster rather than gradual loss. This adds credibility to the theory that what lies beneath the sea is connected to a singular, historic cataclysm. Understanding the geography of the Gulf of Aqaba helps to see why this ancient site survived hidden below the waves for millennia. It also underscores why the discovery is so fragile and precious. Nature has preserved these artifacts through isolation, but also made their recovery increasingly urgent. This harsh underwater environment has turned artifacts into tombstones, but it has also created a coral-encrusted puzzle the divers are only beginning to piece together: chariot wheels and coral tombs. The physical evidence emerging from beneath the Red Sea has stunned even the most seasoned divers and experts. Hundreds of chariot wheel outlines have been photographed, their round shapes preserved by thick layers of coral that have hardened over centuries. These wheels are no longer just metal, they have become underwater monuments. Some show the classic 4 spokes associated with ancient Egyptian military chariots, while others have 6 or even 8. These wheels are not isolated relics, but part of a vast debris field stretching almost a mile across the sea floor. Their alignment in nearly perfect rows suggests they once belonged to a line of chariots as the army attempted to escape disaster. The imagery is both fascinating and haunting, a snapshot of panic frozen in time. Metal fragments found nearby include broken axles and horseshoes, further reinforcing the idea that this was no haphazard shipwreck. The presence of horse-related artifacts alongside the wheels paints a vivid picture of mounted charioteers caught in a desperate battle or sudden calamity. Yet, The harsh underwater conditions have not been kind to these remains. Saltwater corrosion has ravaged the metal, and relentless tides continue to shift sand and silt over the site. Coral growth, while preserving shapes, also makes cleaning and extracting the artifacts impossible without destroying them. This natural encapsulation acts as both protector and prison, keeping the relics intact but forever trapped below the surface. One of the most chilling images captured by the excavation team was that of a wheel glimmering faintly beneath coral with an unusual golden sheen. If true, this could indicate exquisite craftsmanship or even a ceremonial royal chariot wheel. Whether this golden piece still exists remains uncertain, but its reported presence adds a layer of mystery and urgency to the mission. Corrosion aside, the volunteers and professionals conducting the dives often remarked on the eerie sensation of handling these relics. Each fragment tells a story of sudden catastrophe and loss. The fact that the wheels maintained their shape despite millennia underwater is testament to the unique preservation conditions of the site and the intense tragedy it witnessed. Archaeometallurgists who examined remote samples confirmed that the metal's makeup matches the late Bronze Age, a period when chariots dominated Egyptian warfare. This scientific confirmation ties the artifacts directly to the era of Pharaoh Ramesses II, the ruler traditionally linked to the Exodus story. Careful sonar mapping reveals that the stranded wheels aren't randomly placed. They lie in a line, guiding investigators toward a deeper understanding of the sequence of events that led to this underwater mass grave. The chariots tell a story of military might suddenly undone and swallowed by the sea. Yet, the haunting truth remains. These coral tombs are fragile ghosts. With every passing year, shifting currents and salt water eat away at what little remains. The discovery is not just monumental, it's a race against time to capture a history on the brink of vanishing forever. From these encrusted wheels, the story moves deeper into what else lies beneath. Bones beneath the waves. The discovery of scattered bones added a deeply human dimension to an already astonishing find. Hundreds of bone shards, some clearly human and others belonging to horses, lay tangled across the seabed among chariot fragments. These remains were not scattered randomly, but appeared clustered in ways that suggested sudden and violent loss. The preservation of so many bones underwater is rare, hinting at a tragic mass casualty event. As divers examined the site more closely, they began to piece together a somber picture. This was not just an accident or a battlefield relic. It was an underwater grave for men and animals caught in a catastrophe thousands of years ago. The bones matched what would be expected of soldiers and their war horses, tying the corpses directly to the chariot remains and the presumed fleeing army. This reinforced the sense that the site was a snapshot of history frozen in place, a moment of panic captured eternally beneath the sea. The human remains gave rise to powerful emotions among the team. Seeing skulls, ribs, and spines encased in coral and intertwined with broken weapons gave the dive a grave solemnity. This was no treasure hunt, but a journey into tragedy. One diver's haunting radio message, "This is not good," reflected the weight of what they had encountered. Hundreds of lives swept away in an ancient, sudden disaster. The site felt like an underwater cemetery, a place where history's human cost was unmistakable. While the presence of bones helped support the idea of a military disaster, it also opened questions about the exact nature of the event. Was this the biblical drowning of Pharaoh's army during the Exodus, or a different, unknown battle? The sheer number of remains and the arrangement of artifacts suggested a mass drowning rather than a typical battlefield aftermath. This subtle distinction matters greatly in understanding how this ancient tragedy unfolded. Scientific tests on some of the recovered fragments added weight to the story. Analysis of animal bones, like a half-buried horse skull tangled in seagrass, showed they belonged to breeds historically used by Egyptian chariot corps. This connection to Egypt's late Bronze Age military further aligns the site with the era often associated with the Pharaoh Ramesses II, traditionally linked to the Exodus timeline. Such findings brought a startling realism to what might have once been dismissed as myth. Despite the gripping physical evidence, the fragile nature of these remains complicated further study. Coral and marine growth encrusted many bones, making careful excavation nearly impossible without risking destruction. Saltwater constantly wears down organic materials, and the divers realized that time was not on their side. These were relics slowly dissolving back into the sea, demanding urgent attention, yet cautious handling. The bones scattered here, mingled with shattered chariot parts and weapon fragments, paint a haunting tableau of sudden defeat and drowning. They transformed the site from mere archaeological curiosity into a powerful reminder of human vulnerability in the face of nature and fate. This tragic scene beneath the waves represents a lost moment of history, preserved yet fading. For skeptics, this spread of bones raised doubts and alternative explanations. Some suggested the remains could belong to shipwreck victims from different centuries, given the Gulf of Aqaba's long history as a busy shipping route. Yet, the scale, distribution, and dating of the remains made it improbable that this was a random or recent maritime disaster. Instead, the evidence strongly supports a mass military calamity that fits ancient accounts. The presence of these human and animal bones added urgency to the mission and heightened the stakes for archaeological preservation. The divers understood they had uncovered far more than artifacts. They had found the remains of a story that challenges accepted history and the boundaries between legend and fact. No story about this controversial site can ignore the man behind its initial discovery. His name and legacy continue to cast long shadows over the expedition's findings. Ron Wyatt's controversial legacy. Ron Wyatt was a self-taught adventurer whose name is inseparable from the story of Pharaoh's drowned army. In the 1970s, he claimed to have found physical evidence beneath the Red Sea, a field of chariot wheels and human bones that echoed the biblical account of the Exodus. These bold assertions made him a polarizing figure. To followers, a trailblazer revealing divine history. To many academics, a figure of skepticism and controversy. Wyatt's background was unorthodox for an archaeologist. Lacking formal training or academic credentials, he worked quietly as a nurse and anesthetist in Tennessee. Yet, driven by a deep conviction in the Bible as literal history, he dedicated much of his life to uncovering physical proof of biblical events. His approach combined faith-fueled passion with unconventional methods, which earned distrust from mainstream scholars but fascination from religious communities. His first major claims included locating Noah's Ark and the true Mount Sinai, pushing him into the spotlight while drawing sharp criticism. The dive into the Red Sea in 1978 was perhaps his most famous and divisive expedition. Armed with basic scuba gear and scant resources, Wyatt reported seeing coral-encrusted chariot wheels and human bones on the seafloor at Nawibiya Beach. This discovery, he insisted, confirmed the biblical narrative of Pharaoh's army perishing beneath the sea. Despite the explosive nature of his claims, Wyatt never produced peer-reviewed scientific evidence or certified photographs suitable for rigorous analysis. This lack of tangible proof led official institutions to deny him excavation permits and dismiss his findings as unreliable. Academic journals refused to publish his work, citing rudimentary methods and faith-driven interpretations rather than scientific rigor. Yet, Wyatt's story took on a life of its own, spreading through low-budget documentaries and religious circles. For those convinced of the Bible's historicity, Wyatt became a prophet-like figure whose discoveries needed only faith to be accepted. Critics labeled him a fraud, arguing that his findings were misinterpretations or fabrications fueled by wishful thinking. This ongoing debate colors every new investigation into the site. One of Wyatt's most controversial claims involved a golden chariot wheel reportedly recovered and handed over to Egyptian authorities, a gleaming artifact meant to be a definitive prize. However, no verified photos, museum records, or official statements ever confirmed this piece's existence. This gap in the record has perpetuated doubt and intrigue, leaving the Golden Wheel's fate a mystery. Wyatt also warned against removing or disturbing the artifacts, believing the coral incrustation preserved their shape but made them incredibly fragile. He claimed that exposure to air would cause the relics to crumble violently, turning these underwater remains into dust if handled improperly. This cautioned approach may have contributed to the decades-long delay in formal excavation. His belief that legal and political restrictions barred full recovery added another layer of complexity. The site lies within Egypt's strict archaeological jurisdiction, where unauthorized removal of artifacts is a serious offense. Wyatt argued this legal barrier effectively prevented public display or scientific study, keeping the secrets buried along with the army. Despite the controversies, Ron Wyatt's legacy endures because the recent expedition's findings closely echo many of his original claims. The echoes of his controversial mission continue to challenge historians and archaeologists alike, forcing a reconsideration of what might be waiting beneath the waves. The legacy of a lone adventurer remains entwined with the mysteries of the Red Sea, but technology and fresh investigations are slowly peeling back the layers of disbelief. The science and technology behind the expedition. The recent expedition that ventured beneath the Red Sea brought with it a level of technology unheard of in Ron Wyatt's day. The team assembled in late 2024 included elite divers, marine engineers, and underwater archaeologists, all equipped with tools worth over $10 million. Among these were advanced sonar imaging systems capable of creating detailed three-dimensional maps of the seabed, revealing even the smallest anomalies hidden beneath layers of sand and coral. Remotely operated underwater vehicles, equipped with high-resolution cameras, allowed investigators to explore depths and angles no diver could reach with traditional equipment. These drones captured crystal-clear images of angular chariot wheels, axles, and clustered human and equine bone fragments. The clarity of this footage transformed vague legends into almost tangible evidence, putting years of speculation into sharp focus. Metal detectors swept over the seabed to pick up the faint magnetic traces left by ancient bronze and iron objects. These readings pinpointed areas where corroded but identifiable fragments lay, enabling divers to concentrate their efforts efficiently. One surprising discovery was that some of the metal matched the metallurgy typical of late Bronze Age Egypt, a significant scientific confirmation bridging technology and history. The team's approach combined faith-driven motivation with strict scientific protocols, balancing reverence for the fragile site with the need for evidence. Despite these precautions, the artifact's delicate state made any physical recovery hazardous. The layers of coral that preserved the wheels and bones were also their fragile shields. Disturbing them risked losing the very details needed to understand this ancient event. This high-tech exploration was carried out under absolute secrecy due to the sensitive nature of the find. Many of the team members were military veterans familiar with covert operations, applying a new kind of discipline to underwater archaeology. Their mission was not only to verify Wyatt's long-dismissed claims, but to do so without attracting controversy or political interference. The use of submersible scanners capable of detecting the slightest magnetic anomalies allowed the discovery of an underwater debris field stretching nearly a mile. This far exceeded what most had imagined. Far from a small batch of relics, the site appeared to be an extensive snapshot of a fleeing army caught in tragedy. Every piece added complexity, confirming the scale of the disaster recorded in biblical texts. Remote consultations with metallurgists and archaeologists widened the research team's expertise. This collaboration between underwater specialists and academic experts helped validate the findings, bringing credibility to claims that had lingered on the fringe for decades. This blend of technology, experience, and scholarly insight marked a turning point for the investigation. Yet even with cutting-edge equipment, challenges remained immense. Damage from centuries of saltwater corrosion, tide movements, and silt pressure meant that many artifacts were already collapsing. The team faced a race against natural degradation, knowing that the window to document this site was closing fast. The technology had pulled back the curtain on history, but it also revealed a fragile truth slipping away. No expedition of this magnitude could proceed without confronting political and institutional obstacles that complicated every dive beneath these mysterious waters. Political and archaeological roadblocks. Exploring one of history's greatest underwater mysteries has not been a straightforward journey. From the start, the project faced a barrage of political and bureaucratic barriers. Requests for funding through traditional academic and archaeological channels were flatly rejected, labeled pseudoscience, or dismissed as conspiracy. Such skepticism from official institutions reflected an entrenched resistance to revisiting narratives considered settled for decades. Government agencies and universities were quick to scoff at the idea of ancient Pharaoh's chariots resting underwater, calling it fantasy. One Israeli antiquities official reportedly dismissed the entire site as nothing but coral and conspiracy. Behind the scenes, governments quietly warned the team to avoid disturbing the seabed, citing fragile marine preservation laws as justification. It became clear that powerful interests were uneasy about what lay beneath the waves. This resistance only deepened the divers' resolve. Recognizing that support within the mainstream was unlikely, a discreet group of private backers stepped in. These ranged from adventurous billionaires to deeply motivated biblical archaeology enthusiasts who had followed Ron Wyatt's controversial claims for years. Their quiet and discreet funding enabled the team to press on, free from public scrutiny and political interference. Permits were secured under the cover of geological surveying, providing a clever loophole to allow the underwater exploration to proceed. Every step was planned with total discretion, as if the mission itself were a guarded secret. The tension of working off the books added a layer of urgency and gravity. The team understood the weight of history as well as the sensitivity of their quest. The possibility that some governments might deliberately suppress or destroy evidence keeps doubt circling the discovery. Divers reported that since Wyatt's original claims decades ago, large portions of the debris field seem to have been altered, covered, or even cleared away. Speculation swirls about whether looters or state actors might be erasing traces of this controversial find to protect established historical or religious narratives. Meanwhile, the academic pushback remains fierce. Critics argue that these artifacts could belong to more recent shipwrecks, citing the Gulf of Aqaba's long history as a busy shipping route. Yet this explanation struggles to account for the unique distribution, design, and dating of the finds, which consistently align with late Bronze Age military equipment. The controversy continues to fuel heated debate. What emerges is a delicate battlefield far beyond the physical seabed, a conflict over truth, authority, and historical revision. The divers' work is not only archaeological, but political, challenging what powerful institutions accept and choose to investigate. Beneath the waves, these relics are caught in a race against not only time, but also those who might wish them forgotten. Such tensions frame a desperate struggle for the past, as the divers push onward, knowing that the greatest threat may not be corrosion or ocean pressure, but the pressures above water opposing the revelation of a buried truth, the vanishing evidence and dire implications. The most unsettling reality confronting the divers is the rapid deterioration and disappearance of the artifacts beneath the Red Sea. What once seemed like a preserved underwater snapshot is now a fragile ghost, collapsing under centuries of saltwater corrosion and relentless tides. These forces are slowly erasing the physical evidence of what may be one of history's greatest events, making every moment that passes a race against time. Many of the metal fragments and bone shards are encrusted with coral and crustacean growth so thick that cleaning them without destruction is impossible. This natural preservation paradox means the artifacts are both protected and imprisoned, held together by layers that cannot be removed without crumbling the relics. The divers realize that some pieces may never leave the sea, destined to dissolve quietly in the deep rather than tell their full story above the surface. Remote metallurgical analysis matched several fragments to the metallurgy typical of late Bronze Age Egypt. This scientific link is essential, but it also highlights how vulnerable these artifacts are. The corrosion is not a sudden threat, but the cumulative effect of thousands of years underwater. Yet recent reports suggest deliberate damage or interference, as large sections of the debris field appear altered or cleared since earlier explorations. Speculation runs high as to why key parts of the site might have been systematically destroyed or hidden. Some whisper about government involvement aimed at preventing discoveries that could challenge established historical and religious doctrines. Others point fingers at illicit looters hoping to profit from unregulated underwater plunder. Either way, the vanishing evidence adds a shadow of urgency and suspicion to the quest. The most infamous missing piece is the golden chariot wheel, which Ron Wyatt claimed to have recovered. Unlike coral-encrusted wheels, this golden object was allegedly smooth and gleaming, but no photographs, museum records, or official confirmations exist. Its disappearance deepens the mystery and raises questions about what really happens once such sensational finds come to light. For believers, the evidence is breathtaking and heartbreaking. The site offers a powerful testament to a story held sacred for millennia, physically connecting ancient history and religious texts. For skeptics, the implications are unsettling, forcing reconsideration of what we accept as fact and challenging dominant academic narratives. What if one of history's foundational stories stands on unexamined truths now at risk of being lost? The pushback from mainstream institutions has been fierce ever since Wyatt first surfaced his findings. Critics dismiss the artifacts as remnants from more recent shipwrecks, citing the Gulf's busy maritime history. Yet the scale, arrangement, and metallurgy align too closely with an ancient fleeing army to be coincidental. This contradiction fuels a fierce debate, spurring both curiosity and resistance. Ultimately, the discovery's real bad news is its fragility and obscurity. What may be the physical remains of Pharaoh's lost army risk vanishing entirely before a full scientific understanding can be gained. Every new piece of evidence slipping away feels like history itself slipping through our fingers, a quiet erosion of truth under immense natural and human pressure. This vanishing act forces a profound question. If such a monumental chapter of history can disappear, what else might be hidden, forgotten, or intentionally buried? The sands beneath the Red Sea not only guard ancient secrets, but also test our willingness to face uncomfortable truths about the past and how it is recorded. This astonishing saga beneath the Red Sea reveals a breathtaking discovery that challenges everything we thought we knew. From coral-encrusted wheels to human bones, the evidence tells of a lost army frozen in time, yet vanishing before our eyes. If you found this dive into history as gripping as we did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that uncover the mysteries lurking beneath our world.